The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you'll build relationships, be held accountable, and learn strategies specifically designed to get you unstuck and accelerate your plan for growth. Members are also granted exclusive access to masterminds hosted around the country. Our next event is coming up, and we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona. There's something truly magical about the power of these in-person connections where real-time breakthroughs happen. Picture this. You're surrounded by like-minded law firm owners tackling your business and mindset challenges together. The energy is electric, the insights are transformative, and the results are game-changing. Investing in yourself is the best decision you'll ever make. The knowledge, strategies, and breakthroughs you'll gain are priceless assets that will supercharge your practice and propel you forward. Join the Guild and secure your ticket to Scottsdale at the best possible price by visiting maxlawevents.com.
As an attorney, if you do just a minimal amount of marketing and a minimal amount of, focusing on improving systems in your business, that you don't have to do a ton of things. You don't have to do 1,000 things. If you just do the basics and the blocking and tackling and making sure that you're, not leaving leads to wither on the vine, that you're not, you're just following up, just real basic stuff. I think those kinds of things really can take your business a whole lot forward. A lot of times we want to focus on the
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. I'm Jim Hacking.
And I'm Tyson Mutrux. Jimmy, you are reporting live from the basement of immigration in St. Louis, Missouri. How is that going?
That's true. I'm the only person here. I'm in the federal building. There's not many early birds here at 7:12 in the morning. So I'm not surprised that I basically have the whole cafeteria to myself.
And I'm surprised that you have such good cell reception. So that's pretty good too. Pretty cool topic today. We had a pretty good time with Icon last week. I sort of teased what the topic is. You want to tell us what the topic is?
For those of you who might have seen us on the Maximum Lawyer Facebook page, we went live for a little bit while we were out in Phoenix. Tyson and I attended the annual Infusionsoft convention known as Icon 17. It's held in Phoenix every year. We are regular attendees and have really enjoyed it over the years. And so this week we're going to talk about some of the lessons that we learned and the things that we liked about it. So why don't you start off, Tyson?
Yeah, so there were, several sessions you could attend. I guess I'll go through the things that I liked about it. Basically what Icon is, it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday event. It starts off with opening ceremonies, and then you've got just session after session of things you can attend. They've got about 5 to 7 sessions each block of time that you can actually attend. So there's lots of stuff going on. You can meet one-on-one with business coaches. You can meet one-on-one with vendors, both of which are extremely helpful. And then they also have big speakers come in and speak. And the two big speakers, well, there's really 3 big speakers that spoke. So there was Jillian Michaels, there was Marcus Lemonis, there was Lisa Nichols, and then Vern Harnish was the last speaker. I'd say my favorite part of the entire event was probably one, just hanging out with you and John Fisher and getting to talk about business and things like that. That's probably my favorite thing. And then also Brett Farr as well. But I'd say next to that would be listening to Marcus Lemonis speak. It was phenomenal. If you've never heard him speak, it's nothing like the TV shows. It was incredible. He told very heart-wrenching, deep stories about himself. The idea was about personal connection, which we're going to do a podcast on coming up shortly. But he basically started the entire speech by, he was out in the crowd. No one knew he was out in the crowd. The only time he stepped on the stage was to actually exit, which was pretty cool. He was down out in the crowd the entire time, but he started by telling personal stories about himself. The reason why he did that is, and he sort of paused, he says, "Do you feel that connection we have now?" And it was true. You feel like you have a personal connection with him. It was really cool. And then he had people stand up and tell stories about themselves, things that they had never told anyone. And a gentleman stood up and he said that when he was 9, I believe, he said, "When I was 9 years old, my mom told me that she had to do it all over again. She'd never have me." Like he was the very first person that spoke. It was incredible. And everyone had this really deep connection with him. And Marcus says, wouldn't you want to do if price, product, everything else was the same, wouldn't you want to do business with that guy? It was true. It was absolutely true. And he did that with several people, and it was really incredible. And so I'd say that was probably the most impactful thing that I took away. I have a notebook full of notes, takeaways, because it's just such a good conference. And it's not just for people that have Infusionsoft. It's not. It's for everybody. There are several people there that don't have Infusionsoft, and they go. It's such a great event, and so each one of the sessions, you have options of going to sessions that have nothing to do with Infusionsoft. It's just about business and referral building or whatever it may be. So I've talked for a long time, Jimmy, but that was my biggest takeaway from Infusionsoft.
We're big fans of The Prophet at our house. I watch it with the boys every week when new episodes drop. He also just had a second show called The Partner, where he was taking on an assistant, basically. And so we've seen that hard-edged side of Marcus negotiating with business owners and, just playing hardball, running a business. And I've learned a lot of lessons just by watching his show. He always talks about people, process, and product. And just seeing the way his mind works on the show has been enlightening. But his speech, as you mentioned, was not at all what I expected. I thought he'd be standing up behind a podium talking about the 3 Ps, which he always says on TV. Instead, we're treated to something completely different. I mean, he got up and talked about how he was adopted from an orphanage in Lebanon when he was 9 months old, how he never felt like he fit in, how he never felt comfortable, how he felt invisible. And that's how he started his talk. He said, don't let your employees or your customers feel invisible. And he came out from the crowd, and he was wearing a plaid flannel shirt and blue jeans. And he basically walked around, pacing around the room, as you said, talking to different people, getting them to open up and really to share their vulnerabilities. And, some people in the room were like, ooh, I hope he doesn't call on me, but I love all that touchy woo stuff. So I was really hoping he'd call on me, but he didn't. But anyway, he really came across as genuine when he told the stories about his own struggles with suicidal thoughts and being molested and struggling with bulimia. And then when the man shared about his mom not wanting him and the other lady sharing about how she'd been raped in the military, it was just, I know we're making it sound like a big drama fest, but it was just this one session that was so powerful. And last year, Gary Vaynerchuk spoke, and Gary was the main keynote speaker, and his speech was very, very good, and his presentation was awesome, but it was just fundamentally different. And I think a lot of people that I've talked to since the event have said that Marcus's talk has really stuck with them. So I share your thought that was the highlight of the trip. Did you want to talk about that some more, and then I can tell you some other thoughts I have?
Yeah, so, and I think that it was, not only was it very impactful, but it was a great lesson. I mean, he didn't stand up and say, you need to tell stories about yourself and your business. That's not what he said. He actually used it as an example. And that was what was really interesting. It was a huge takeaway. So that's one of the first things that I wanted to do when I got back. We've got to start telling more stories. We got to tell more stories about ourselves whenever we're meeting with clients and actually marketing to clients, because that's what they want to hear, because you develop that connection. So it really was a great lesson. And it wasn't just the whole passionate, emotional speech that we were talking about. There was a business lesson to it. And so that was really incredible. The importance of having the vendors there was great. I actually signed up with 2 vendors while I was there. I think it was only 2, there may have been 3. I met with several, but I don't know how many. There's probably close to 50 vendors there. But I met with Appointment Core. Appointment Core is going to help automate my appointment scheduling and also set reminders and things like that. We do that through Infusionsoft now, but they actually simplify it. That was a great vendor that was there. But the vendors are there to help you improve your business. And then the other one is really cool, which I've already been using, is an app called Sotellus. And honestly, when I first saw it, I sort of mocked it and thought it was a joke. And then we actually went and talked to them and did a little research on it. And it's a pretty incredible app. You've got this app you have to pay for. You don't have to pay to download it, but you have to pay for their service. The first month was free if you went to Icon, and then it's $99 a month. the normal price for it is $3.99 for the basically get you set up, and then $1.99 a month. So it's a pretty damn good deal. If you went to Icon, and it's this app where you can do video reviews or really any type of review. But for me, at the end of a case, you hand someone a check, and so they're happy, and so you do a video review. And what it does is it automatically populates to your website, because there's a widget that they give you that's a part of the service, and it automatically populates to your website immediately. It is immediate. So every time someone goes to your website, they can see these video reviews with your star rating, and they also aggregate your star rating from places like Facebook, Yelp, Google, all the major review services. And they actually aggregate those. And those are listed on your website too, which is a really, really cool thing. I had just a few weeks ago talked with a marketing guy that was a big thing that what he does. And he puts it at the top of his website. And he says it increases conversion by quite a bit. Also, it allows you to get Google reviews, and because you can't use the same IP address repeatedly, they've got a workaround with that. So you hand them your phone, and any 4 or 5 stars will allow them to send a message to their own cell phone. So you hand it to them. If they give it to a 3-star or below, it says thank you for your review and doesn't push them down the path any further. But what they do if you get a 4 or 5-star review, they put in their cell phone number. It sends them a text message. So then they finish the review from their cell phone. And it's pretty simple because they've got this copy review button. So the review that they've already typed into your cell phone, they just copy it, and then they just paste to your Google page. It directs them directly to it. So your Google page, or really you can choose Yelp, Google, whatever you want them to give, wherever you want them to give the review on, and they can do it. And so it is really interesting and really easy to do. You can have them giving a review in less than a minute. It is super fast. So those are the 2 main vendors that I talked to. I'd also talked to a virtual CFO company out of Kansas City, which is pretty cool. They were Jayhawk and K-State fans, so that wasn't a big thing for me. But since I'm a Mizzou fan, I wasn't happy about that. But other than that, they were good people. The good part of it is you're talking to a lot of these vendors, and they really give you great ideas on how to improve your business. And then one of my other favorite parts is I actually met with a business coach. This is part of the conference. They let you do it for free. And so Infusionsoft has built a system for how they train and improve businesses. It's really cool. And so what the business coach does is they walk you through the process, and then it allows you to identify problems or opportunities with your business. I identified quite a few opportunities with my business, and the great thing is I can use Infusionsoft to really improve those parts of my business and capture those opportunities. So that's something that I'll be working on over the next few weeks.
So as you know, Tyson, I have a love-hate relationship with the vendors, because when the big talks are going on and people are trying to get people to drop big money at the conference, I always have to leave the room because I'm a sucker for those pitches.
So for the listeners, if you have something to sell, call Jimmy first. He'll buy it from you. He's a sucker. So just make sure you call him first, because he'll make sure to buy it.
Yeah, I absolutely admit that is true. You and I laugh about a time we were at the Info Summit for Dan Kennedy, and I was like running around from thing to thing trying to buy stuff, and you talked me out of it. So I was greatly appreciative of that. But yeah, so I did meet with some of the vendors. I also signed up for Appointment Core. I think we're going to have Ben, who's one of the founding members of Appointment Core, on the show in a couple of weeks. He's agreed to come on. And I think that I'm working with Kelsey, my Infusionsoft guy, to set up Appointment Core for the team. I think it's going to allow a lot of automation. And it's funny, I was explaining how we're going to use Appointment Core to schedule appointments and then to notify clients by text and email. And I was explaining that to someone yesterday, and they said, oh, so that means the person who does it now is going to lose their job. I said, actually, no. What it's going to allow us to do is have that person work for Amani, one of the other lawyers in our office, sort of full-time, as opposed to wasting time making phone calls and tracking down people to reschedule or schedule or remind them of their appointment. So we're excited about that. I thought the vendors were good. I didn't think the crowd was as big as usual, but I think the crowd was energized. I think that there were some vendors that I sort of found to be annoying. There was that one guy who supposedly makes you a celebrity by figuring out ways to get you on local television and to speak at Harvard. I thought he was really cheesy. But, you know, with all things, you take the good and you leave the bad and don't worry about it. So I think that you're right. The vendors are definitely one of the highlights of the trip. And another one for me is just getting to talk to random people. Some of our best ideas and thoughts, I think, come from those conversations we have at the lunches, which is just you sitting with, I sort of tried to stay away from people like you and Jason that I knew, just because I knew that I would get more out of talking to people that I had met before and hearing how people were using the software. One lady we both had lunch with was a yoga instructor, and she uses videos and Infusionsoft to teach people how to do yoga and as a lead magnet. And I signed my wife up for it, and she loves the videos, so she's been getting a lot out of that. So I think that there's just a lot of positive energy, a lot of good vibes, and I think that, there's the practical things that you can learn, but also I think that just getting away from the business and having that time to think of the bigger thoughts. And to me, it also helps me get off things that have been sort of sitting on my desk, and it makes me decide, am I going to do X, Y, or Z, or am I not? It's just sort of a break to sort of have you reset and look at things again.
Yeah, it's one of those things where whenever I leave an event like that, it does give you a chance to reset. It also gives you that time to really think, really think about your business, and just, you're not in the middle of your business, so you're actually able to think about things and how can I improve things. I came up with so many new ideas. It's incredible. I mean, I'll never be able to implement all of the ideas, but there's a lot of them already implemented, and it really has improved my business. And so I think you said on the first day after Clayton Mass spoke, like, this was worth the entire conference. And it absolutely was. It was only $3.99 to go to the conference, and you get so much. You get to meet with a business coach for an hour. For this, it's included in the conference fee. It doesn't cost you anything additional. That alone is worth going to a conference like this. And I'm not trying to sell people to go to the conference, but I'm just saying this is such a worthwhile conference to go to. It's so fantastic. But when I left, and I'm still energized from it, I was so energized. When we were on that plane flying back, even though we didn't have Wi-Fi, which was frustrating, but you still, you have this energy after you leave a conference like that. And it's a great just motivator to push you forward. And it's a great way to break up your year so that you can really just, like you said, reset and then really get going on some new ideas.
Yeah, and, I'm glad you mentioned that Clayton Mask presentation, because he was the lead-off speaker. He's one of the founding members of Infusionsoft. And one of the things for me, my goal in going to InfusionCon this year was to really focus on the during unit. I was going to channel my inner Tyson and figure out ways that we can build out systems for the providing of legal services. I think that the marketing and the before unit for us is really strong. And right now we're at sort of a point where we really need to get more efficient and more systematical about how we do things. And so that was sort of my marching orders going in. And Clay talked about just doing the basics. And I think that if you, as an attorney, if you do just a minimal amount of marketing and a minimal amount of, focusing on improving systems in your business, that you don't have to do a ton of things. You don't have to do 1,000 things. If you just do the basics and the blocking and tackling and making sure that you're, not leaving weeds to wither on the vine, that you're not, you're just following up, just real basic stuff. I think those kinds of things really can take your business a whole lot forward. And a lot of times we want to focus on the ninja aspects of cool things that, sound really cool. Like, we met a guy who has a pretty cool business that allows you to do that Facebook messaging with a bot. And, that's something that in the old days I'd be really drawn to and I'd sign up for. But it doesn't make any sense for me right now. It's something sophisticated and it's at a higher level. So I really focused on, just learning about Infusionsoft at a very basic level and thinking about ways that we can implement it in the daily things that we actually do, instead of getting drawn into all the shiny objects like I usually do.
Yeah, you're definitely the shiny object guy. And I think we all are to some extent. It's easy to do, so I won't knock you too much for it, because I did sign up for 2 vendors while I was out there, so I can't say much. All right, so I do want to talk about a few of the sessions that I went to, and I think you're going to probably talk about a couple of yours as well. But I'd gone to something I've been trying to do is launch a referral program. It's hard to do as a personal injury attorney, I think, to launch your typical referral program, because it's not like you can say, hey, send me 5 cases, I'll give you a 6th case free or something like that. It just doesn't work that way. So I've been trying to come up with creative ways of doing it. And it's really interesting to me. I went to one by Greg Jenkins, who is a friend of yours, and Jason Osterly, and I got to meet him as well. Really nice guy. And he was one of the guys that built the campaigns for Market of the Year, or one of the finalists. And he had this one called Launching a Referral Program That Scales. And it was more directed towards people that have products or services that actually can be marketed in the traditional ways. But it did give me a lot of really good ideas, and it gave me the bones on how to actually start a referral program. It was really interesting to me, and he was actually giving away his slides for free. So if you want to see those two, I would just Google Greg Jenkins Infusionsoft. I'm sure on his website, he said on his homepage, you can just enter in your email address. So that was a really good one, because I really had zero idea on how to actually start a referral program. You think, oh, it couldn't be that easy, but it was pretty complicated. He got pretty deep into actually how you can divvy up the money and a lot of other things. It's just the basics of it were really, really great. So I highly recommend you check that out, because a big part of my business is actually getting referrals from other attorneys. And so I wanted to increase that by quite a bit. And so that was a great way of doing it. So if you've got a business where it's based on referrals, that's a good way, something good to look at. Another one that I went to was by Michael Edelman. He's a big Infusionsoft guy. And the name of it had to do with tagging in Infusionsoft, but that really wasn't the message, I didn't think. The message is that just segmenting your lists of people that you market to or that you communicate with on a regular basis, and keeping that list clean. So this is one of the examples of that topic may have been about Infusionsoft, or at least in the subject line it was about Infusionsoft, but it really wasn't. It was really deeper, where you really need to focus your marketing, keep your marketing list separate, and that way you're not confusing the message. And so it was a really, really good one. And it really gave you an idea of how to go back to the basics and reset and restructure how you're communicating with people. So I thought that was a really good session to go to as well. Jimmy, you want to talk about a couple?
My highlights included two presentations by a guy named James Ashford. James is from the UK, and he came across the pond to talk to us about actually advising accountants on how to run their practices and how to maximize their revenues and develop new clients and to build out systems. So I thought that, given the topic of our podcast and the work that you and I do to try to help lawyers increase business and run their practice better, that he'd be a good person for me to go see. I went to both of his sessions. You went to one of them. I thought he was fantastic, and it really worked out well for me, because I ended up tweeting him back and forth, and we actually met for coffee, and I got to go into the Icon VIP lounge with him and have chocolate chip cookies and talk about how to run my practice. So that was a real highlight for me. And that's one of the things about going to conferences, is you get a chance to talk to the speakers, that they're a lot more accessible than they would be if I were just trying to email them from St. Louis to London. So that was a highlight. The other highlight, and I'll make a deal with you, I did not get to attend Greg Jenkins' session on referral marketing and referral network, but I did attend his session on nurture campaigns. And so often nurture, I think about, is just my weekly newsletter, that's sort of a fallback nurture. But nurture can be more than that, and it can be segmented. And what I mean by that is that, right now people get a few emails from us, and then after a while they sort of just fall off into our weekly email campaign. And Greg was talking about developing a better nurture campaign, one that's more particularized based on the conduct of the person and on the topic that they're interested in. And so that was a really good presentation. So we'll put up that link to the slide deck for Greg's presentations on the show notes. So those are really two highlights for me. And Tyson, I think we are running out of time, so we should probably get talking about our hack and tip of the week.
Yeah, before we get to that, I want to talk about one more session, which I almost forgot about. And the name of it was Culture is the Game Changer. John Fisher was in on that one as well. It's by Hal Halladay, and his title at Infusionsoft is Chief People Officer. It was really interesting to see them talk about the core values, and it really was interesting to see how they bring in new people, how they offer the $5,000 for people to leave, It's a really, really cool thing. So if you ever have a chance to look into it, check in to see how Infusionsoft hires and fires people. After, I don't remember how many weeks the people are there, but they say, here is a check for $5,000 if you want to leave, because they know the value of having a person there that doesn't want to be there for a long time. It costs them a lot of money. And so they give the example of a salesperson that they pay about $150,000 a year, and all it costs there were to train that person, and how much opportunity cost there is and the opportunity lost because that person doesn't want to be there. So they're not hustling. So they're not actually trying to get business. They're just sort of there and going through the movement, go through the motions. And they estimate it cost them about $500,000 or more to actually bring on a bad person. So they want to fire them at the fastest or the earliest opportune time because they want to save themselves some money. So that $5,000 saves them hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's really interesting. And I don't want to talk about it too much because I know we're running out of time, but to make sure that just check that out, because if you want to find out about how Infusionsoft does it, it's really interesting.
I wish I could pay you $5,000 and make you go away.
Hey, you know what, Jimmy? You go right ahead. Give me $5,000. We'll continue in the podcast, but you can go ahead and give me $5,000 with all that immigration money you got coming in.
That'd be great if I could get you to move away from St. Louis.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. All right, Jimmy, you want to do your hack of the week?
For my hack of the week, it's sort of an unusual thing that I like to do, and I've been doing it more now that we've gotten back from InfusionCon, and that is to read 2 books at the same time. Now, that sounds like a crazy notion, but what do I mean by that? What I like to do is to take 2 books about business and read them one chapter at a time, alternating chapters, and I often find connections between the 2 books, and it really helps me to pull out ideas out of the book. This is usually for audiobooks. I usually can see connections and patterns in the things that the 2 books, even if they're completely unrelated. I might be listening to a biography of some old titan, and then I might be reading a book on how to improve systems in 2017, and seeing the 2 things work together. It's a really interesting way to sort of make your way through what can be sometimes thick content.
Good one. That's a good way of doing it. I like that. That's interesting. Wow, that seems like it's a very time-consuming way of getting through a book, but that's really interesting. My tip of the week is, I think, going to save a lot of people a lot of headache. All right. It's an app called Mail Cleaner, just like it sounds. It's 2 words, M-A-I-L, Cleaner, C-L-E-A-N-E-R. All right. So what it does is, I'm one of those people that I keep all my emails so I can search for them later. And so I've got a ton of messages in my inbox. I use it sort of like a file system where I can actually just keep them and as reference later. But I realize that that's probably not the best thing to do, and there's a lot of emails in there that I need to get rid of. So Mail Cleaner, what it does is it groups your emails by the sender. And so you may have, for example, I had 49 emails from Lee Rosen in my inbox, right? And I'm done with those. I don't need to go back and reread those emails. So I was able to delete big chunks of emails at one time. So it's really interesting, and you can archive them. So it's mostly for Gmail, I think. So if you don't have Gmail, and we use Google Apps for Business, so it's basically Gmail. So you can actually use it. So if you have G Suite, which is the new name for Google Apps for Business, you can use it. Which if you don't, you should, because it's really, really great. But it has reduced the size of my inbox. I haven't looked at the actual numbers, but it was by thousands. So it really is effective. So I highly recommend it. I will tell you, after your 5th deletion, it costs you $9.99 for the app, $9.99. I think it's worth it. I would have paid a lot more for it if I had to clean up my inbox. So it's something I highly recommend, is the Mail Cleaner app.
That's it. So we have some exciting guests coming up. I think you've got a couple lined up for us, and I have one. So we're looking forward to future episodes. If you like our podcast, please share it with your friends on social media. Please join our Facebook group. There's been a lot of good discussions in there lately. And if you have any thoughts or you want to be on the show, give Tyson or me a call, and we'd be happy to talk through with seeing if there's ways that we can help you.
Thanks, guys. Good to be back. Talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your hosts and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.